of social activism and change.
Uh, Thank you, Kurt, and hello, everyone. Hi, can you wave? Look at that, beautiful. Thank you so much. It's great to visit with you today. I haven't been to Cleveland area for a while, since before the pandemic, so it's nice to be there virtually. I grew up in Buffalo, New York, so not terribly far from where you are right now. I myself went to community college. I went to Erie Community College and graduated from there before I went on and got my bachelor's and then my master's degree in creative writing. And that's really where I started writing poetry. I was first like an punk musician back in the day and wrote lyrics for songs, and that writing lyrics for songs became writing about other things as well as I got older. So I want to talk a little bit today just about this book that came out about 2 years ago called Coronavirus Haiku, from Kenning Editions. I run something in New York City now called the Worker Writers School. And so we get together once a month and talk and write together. The members of the Worker Writer School are from different labor organizations, different worker organizations in New York City. Has anyone ever been to New York City? Raise a hand if you've been to New York City. I see one, two, three hands up. Okay. So if you've been, or even if you haven't been, you probably know. Our members are, for example, I'll read a poem in a few seconds from one of the yellow taxi drivers. We have the people who have driven yellow cabs for their whole life in New York City and are part of a group called the New York Taxi Workers Alliance. We have street vendor, members of the street vendor project. So if you've been to the city and you see people with carts out selling hot dog, falafel, etc., the members, the workers who are often like immigrant and refugee workers working in the carts, they are members of our group, Domestic Workers United, who are nannies, again, often immigrant workers who take care of people's kids while they're at work. They are members of our group. And we used to meet live all the time before the pandemic happened. And then, of course, in the beginning of the pandemic, we started doing what we're doing today, meeting online, on Zoom, and writing together. And we wrote this form of poem, which you probably have heard of, maybe you even wrote before, called the haiku. How many people have heard of the haiku before? All right, that's a good size. So many people. It's a Japanese poetic form, a kind of traditional Japanese poetic form. It's about, a lot of the best haiku writers were writing in Japan maybe 400 or 500 years ago. A person named Basho, another person named Isa, and we studied all this work in the Worker Writers School, and then we wrote haiku. Uh, so if you remember the haiku, the definition of it is it's a three-line poem and it has five syllables in the first line, three syllables in the second line, five syllables in the third line, right? So it is a syllable like a beat, right? So if I say community college, six beats, right? Even though it's only two words, six syllables. And we can write this about everything, right? I've taught workshops and for people who are in prison, those workshops we do haiku. Historically, haiku have been written by all kinds of groups. And so we got together, we kept writing them, and that's how this book came about. So I'm going to read you one haiku about work, and then I'm going to ask you to write one. And you can do it on a piece of paper. You can do it. I was writing in the Notes app on my phone. You can do it on your laptop, on your iPad, however you want to do it. But I'm going to read this one haiku. Maybe I'll actually read a couple of them, but we'll focus on one. So I'll read three of them from this book by a person who's driven the yellow taxi for almost 40 years, 40. So if you can imagine, rush hour where you are and multiply that by about 50, you'll have rush hour in Manhattan. And driving the taxi for all those years, every single day. Let me say that the taxi drivers are great fans of music, particularly jazz music, and great fans of baseball because they listen to them on the radio all day long. And so here are a couple of haiku. I'll read maybe four of them. Uh, and then we'll talk about how we can write one and maybe share one together. So this is Davidson Garrett, a longtime New York City yellow taxi driver. I feel inspired by those yellow chairs that you all are sitting in. That's sort of the color of the New York City taxi as I look at it. So, tired hot dog vendor drops mustard jar from cart, yellowing sore feet. Again, tired hot dog vendor drops huge mustard jar from cart, yellowing sore feet. Right? It's him driving his taxi and seeing another worker selling hot dogs at a stand and has an accident. Another one, time for coffee break. Cabbie double parks by store. A cop tickets him. Again, time for coffee break, 5 syllables. Cabbie double parks car by store, 7 syllables. A cop tickets him, 5 syllables. 5, 7, 5. And so that was an interesting story. The Davidson told me the story when he tells sometimes when he's reading that it was like the 4th of July, and he had been driving all night from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. shift, and it was like 6, 7 in the morning, and he wanted to just run into a bodega, like a corner store, and get a cup of coffee. So he just parked his car out front, ran in to get the coffee, and when he came out, a cop was there ticketing him. He got the ticket. He was all upset because it was 4th of July. Nobody was around. And he drove around the block. And when he came back, the cop had taken his spot and was double parked in the bodega, getting his own cup of coffee, but of course, not getting a ticket. Two more. Starving cab driver gobbles provolone cheese. Taxi smells like feet. I know it's a bad one. But he gets the sense of smelling, right? Often it's just what we see, but can we get what we hear, what we smell, all these different senses into the poem? So, starving cab driver gobbles provolone cheese, taxi smells like feet. And finally, the last one. And I want you to think about when I'm reading, especially this last one, jobs you've had, right? Any job you've had, whether it be at home, babysitting, mowing the lawn, at a restaurant, wherever you happen to work, right? Wherever you've worked at any point in the past. I know for me, this always thinks I worked for a long time in my high school and undergrad at a Wendy's. And so I worked the Wendy's drive-through window in Buffalo for a long time. So I always think about this one. Um, Day driver starts shift, chicken bones left on cab seat by night driver slob. One more time, it's like you come into work and the people before you haven't done their job and you got to clean up after them, or you've had clients, or you're babysitting and a baby throws up. You have people coming into the restaurant leaving a mess, whatever the case may be. That's for Davidson here as a taxi driver. Day driver starts shift, chicken bones left on cab's seat by night driver slob. 5 syllables in the first line, 7 syllables in the second line, 5 syllables in the third line. So, what I'd like you to do, just for about, I don't know, let's say 4 minutes, 5 minutes if we need it, is to remember something, a moment that sticks out to you about a job that you've had at some point. Could just be doing stuff around the house if you haven't had a job outside of the house. Could be wherever you worked this past summer, where you're working now, where you worked in the past when you were in high school. And just in a haiku, a 3-line poem, 5 syllables in the first line, 7 syllables in the second line, 5 syllables in the third line, tell us about that moment from your own work history. And again, about 4 or 5 minutes, and then we'll talk some more. So, in a notebook, on your phone, anywhere you want to write it, it's fine with me.
Hey, Mark, could you just stop and restart your video because we lost the video from you?
Oh, okay. So log out, log back in.
No, just like the button that says like stop video or start, like check that maybe a couple times. See if that resolves the issue.
Did that work?
No. Oh, yeah, yes, it did. Yes, it did. They can see you in the writing center. Yes.
Okay. And did we all
Good.
heard
Thank
the
you.
assignment?
Yep, everybody heard it. Yep.
Okay.
Audio was great.
Perfect. We'll talk in 4 minutes. So take about 1 more minute. Remember, it's only 3 lines, but the syllables count. 5 syllables or beats in the first line, 7 in the second line, 5 in the third line. $30 to finish up. All right. Are we doing good? Do we need one more minute? If you need one more minute, raise your hand. Do I see any hands? Are there any hands raised? I think we're good to go. Oh, one more. Okay. One more minute. One more minute. You're all tiny on my screen. You're all like a 3/4 of an inch tall. Hard to see the hands. One more minute. All right, so let's jump back in. I think sometimes my video is cutting out. Can you see me now? Yes or no? Yeah,
No,
thumbs up. Yes. No.
no.
I keep hitting stop video and then start video, but should we just go with audio?
We're okay with that. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah. I shut it off and on again. Not sure if that worked.
For some reason, not. But thank you for trying.
Hello. Am I there?
No,
Or is it only my voice?
it's just your voice.
I'm gonna I think it's not working. Whoever's right in front of the screen, can you give me a thumbs up or thumbs down on video? Thumbs down. Okay, I'm gonna jump off and log back on. We'll see if that fixes the problem. Be right back, everybody. Hold on to your haiku.
My guess is that it is the Wi-Fi, either here or there. Oh, yeah, that's smart. But your manager will.
Hello, hello, hello. Is the video back?
Can you hear me, Mark?
Yeah, after that big echo, I can hear you fine.
Yeah,
Is the
okay.
video back?
We can see you now.
Okay. I love this echo effect. It'll be great for the haiku. So what I like to do is get maybe, since there's 3 lines in the poem, get 3 volunteers to come up, tell me your name, what kind of job your haiku is about, and then read your haiku. It'll take like 30 seconds max, I think. Couple of volunteers. Since I can't see everybody, you can just come up. 3 volunteers to read a thank you in the white t-shirt in the front. Come on up closer to the video, or at least in the middle somewhere. That should be good. And you can read it to everybody, like turn profile, and then you're looking at me, but looking at everybody. Perfect. So your name?
Okay. My name is Shane.
And what kind of job are you talking about? What did you write about?
I work at the university partnership currently.
All right. And can you read your haiku, but read it a little bit slowly and read it twice, like pause and then read it a second time.
Yeah, I never really written a haiku too often, but there was a moment where lost the keys for one of the rooms. I wrote, "Where did the keys go?" The first line. The second line, I wrote, "Where could they have gone to now?" Then the third line, I wrote, "The keys I should have now." And the first and last lines rhyme. I was trying to do that.
Okay. And can you read it one more time without just read it straight through now?
Okay.
Thank you.
Where did the keys go? Where could they have gone to now? The keys I should have now.
Everybody, like we do, snap it up for our first poet. Thank you very much. I have that same question every morning on my way to work. Where did my keys go? Thank you so much for that.
No problem.
Next person, another volunteer, a second volunteer. I can't see everybody, so just like on that TV show, The Price is Right, come on down. Here we go. Number 2. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, and
So
your name?
my name is Kendall Dirt, and I work at the Little Caesars in North Ridgeville. And this one, I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. It happened to me like a month ago. So, drunk man enters at close. Coworker calls cops too late. Man pissed on lobby floor.
Oh, please, one more time, please.
Drunk man enters at close. Coworker calls cops too late. Man pissed on lobby floor. I was already mopping, so I had to clean it.
Amen. Snap it up. Snap it up. Thank you so much. So I'm going to tell you a story. This reminds me, this would be one I would work on from Wendy's. So I was working in Wendy's one time, and I likewise was mopping the floors. And you try to get it done before the store closes at 11. So you do it like 10:45 so that you can get out quick. Right. And so I'm mopping the floors. And these two dudes come in. Now I'm older, right? So this was like in the 80s. And they're typical like hard rock guys with long hair, jean jackets, jeans, like I don't know, Rush or Led Zeppelin t-shirt on. And they come in and they're giggling away, right? Which means they're probably doing something in the parking lot before they got their Wendy's. So they're giggling away and they go into the bathroom and they're in there for a couple of minutes and they're cracking up as they're leaving. And I'm like, oh no, what is this? So I go into the bathroom, into the men's bathroom, and on the stall is written in human poop, AC/DC, like the band. Oh, it was awful. It was terrible. So I just took the mop and I mopped the walls of the stall. So I feel your pain. I feel your pain. Thank you for sharing your poem. One more, maybe two more, but one more for sure. Another volunteer. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hello.
Hello. My name's Jimmy. I currently work at Sam's Club right here on Cobblestone. I'm a curbside associate now, but at first I was a card associate. This happens still pretty often. Different feats of weather, overwhelming stacks of cards, the quantity builds.
Thank you. One more time. Can you read it again?
Different feats of weather, overwhelming stacks of cards, the quantity builds.
Thank you very much, everybody. Snap it up. So there's this famous translator of haiku who lives in New York City, and he's the one who taught us as our group, the Worker Writer School, to always read them twice. Because the first time you just like hearing it for the content, right? Like what the story is of the poem. But then the second time, hopefully you hear like the syllables and the music and the rhyme of it a little bit more. So that's why, in case anyone's wondering why we read it twice, it's because of that translator of haiku. Maybe one more. I like these so much. I want to keep going. Could I maybe get somebody else to come up and read a haiku? One more. I promise I won't keep using this trick of one more. Thank you. Thank you for coming up.
Thank you. Okay. My name is Savannah Williams. I don't know why I always say last name. Okay.
That's good though. Thank you.
Grease, heat, scrape it clean. Tender meat will leave a stain. Underpaid our wage.
One more time.
Grease, heat, scrape it clean. Tender meat will leave a stain. Underpaid our wage.
Thank you. And where is the workplace? Where do you work? Where are you writing about? If you can say.
But it's a brewery in Lorraine. So great
Okay.
vibes. But yeah, I was a cook.
Thank you so much. Great vibes, bad wage. That's a lot of jobs right now, right? I guess it's better than bad vibes, bad wage. That would be the next one. Anybody else want to read, just in case I'm going to ask, but I won't. But these have been great. I really love that when we share them. You know, it's really well, somebody's pointing to somebody. Is there someone else to go?
Someone has been cajoled.
Excellent. I love cajoling. Hello.
Hi, so my name is Rebecca, and I worked at a supermarket at that point. Customers come in, grabbing stuff, buying products. I will sort again. Yeah, that was like my kind of shop to sort and organize the products in the evening after everyone like bought their stuff. So customers come in, grabbing stuff, buying products. I will sort again.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anybody else care to share? How about the person up front with the red hair who was pointing other people out? Usually in our group, when you point someone else out, then you have to go as well. That's sort of I didn't say that rule, but it is a rule. Do you want to read yours?
I can.
Oh, if you could come up a little bit closer to the camera, that would be great, because it's if you can even slide down the bench just as fine.
I'm Donna.
Hello.
So I teach. First year sem. Soccer players, a blizzard warning. They walk, but I skid. First year sem. Soccer players, a blizzard warning. They walk, but I skid.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And it's interesting how that memory sticks with you, right? Because we're a long way from icy sidewalks. I mean, they're coming again soon, but we're like literally 9-10 months from those icy sidewalks right now. Well, I don't know about Cleveland. Maybe Cleveland is not so far, but at least 6 months from those icy sidewalks, right? So that message sticks. And so one of the things we talk about in our group when we talk about haiku writing, and there's a person, if you're on Instagram, we're at the Worker Writers page, but there's a nanny in Brooklyn who's originally from Jamaica. Her name is Lorraine Garnett, but she goes by Rainy, Rainy, Garnett, on Instagram. She has gotten so into doing this. You know, she goes to Brooklyn, takes the subway, takes care of people's kids all day long, comes home, takes care of her own kids, right? But she's gotten so into this haiku writing that she now writes and posts one every single day. And she's done this for like, I don't know, 2.5, 3 years in a row now. So she's probably written, I'll guess 1,000 haiku at this point in time. And it becomes just a way, like one of the things I think that writing does and what's interesting about writing, and it doesn't always, you know, a lot of times we think about writing, we think about, oh, the 5-paragraph essay, or we think about the research paper, or we think about papers we have to do for class. But I feel like this is like a little bit different kind of writing, right? In one hand, it helps us to be imaginative a little bit. in some ways it helps us just like make sense of our daily lives or put it down. And I feel like a lot of people in the group now just like they always carry like a little pocket notebook or their phone, right? And you can do a haiku on just a little like post-it note. You don't have to have like write a short story, write a novel, etc. It's this really portable and immersive form that you can just be sitting on a subway or walking to school or laying in bed before the go to sleep at night, and you can just pop out 575 syllables about your day. Like you don't even have to write a journal or a diary. And it's become for us, I think, a really good practice that we always come back to. And in fact, a form like this one, not exactly a haiku, but a very short form, we did a whole year recently of, from like the fall to the spring, like an academic year of writing these short poems. And then we worked with a art museum in Brooklyn, in New York City, um, where on May Day, May 1st, which is International Workers' Day, you've seen pictures of the Brooklyn Bridge before, and the bottom of the Brooklyn Bridge, they're called stanchions that the bridge is on, the like legs of the bridge. We projected all the workers' poems onto the bridge on May Day. And so there's pictures of those on the web, on Instagram and elsewhere. And so it was really interesting, especially to hear like this taxi driver that we started with, he said, I've been driving over the Brooklyn Bridge for 40 years back and forth for customers, making my living, and to see my words like up there this night on the bridge all night long, it just meant so much to him, as you could imagine, right? It's like I wasn't just the person who drove the taxi or lost the keys or had to clean up the piss, right? The urine. Like I was also someone who had something to say about it, and people read it. People driving over the bridge, people walking on the park or driving along the FDR highway in New York City could see my words out there in public. And so that's some of the ways that we work in the Worker Writers School. And I thought maybe instead of me talking more, I liked hearing your haiku so much, so thank you for that. But maybe a little time for questions if people have them, and then I can end with one or two more haiku from the book, or if I'd prefer, if anybody else wants to read one, that would be great too. But maybe a few minutes for questions now, and then we can go back to haiku in a little bit. And if you have a question, just come up close to the camera where the people who read their haikus were standing and ask the question, and then I'm more than happy to answer questions about anything, whatever you want.
Want to come up here?
Yeah, come on up.
My name's Shane again, and I was gonna ask you, what is the best haiku that you've heard?
Oh, that would be almost impossible. Thank you for the question. You can sit. You don't have to stand there. I know it's terrible to stand. So have a seat back down. I love all kinds of haiku. So I go back to a lot of the masters. Probably my favorite haiku writer is a writer named Basho, Basho, who is just, I think, kind of compresses so much into a haiku, like so much thought and so much emotion into just those 3 lines. It's always sort of amazing to me what he can do. Another poet I really like, a little bit, wrote about 100 years after Basho, is named Issa, Issa, a Japanese poet from the, trying to remember, I think it's the 1700s is Issa, 1600s is Basho. And there's a website, if you want to look at, if you just type in haiku guy and then Issa, Issa, this person has made an archive of like almost all of Issa's poems, right? And so if you have a theme that you're thinking about, like it's almost autumn or fall now, right? And if you just go to that page and you type in autumn or fall, in fact, I think I have that page up. Yeah, I have it up. So I'm going to type in, let me see. So there is a search function on it, and you can just type in, oh, so there's 13,000 haiku on this site. And so you can just type into the search like fall or autumn, and you'll see all the poems that Issa wrote about fall or autumn. Or you can type in river, and see every single poem that Issa wrote about river. So those I like a lot. But I also teach the haiku in class. I like a lot of the haiku that have been done by different groups of people who have been under difficult circumstances in their life. Because I work with the Worker Writers School and we write these poems, but it's hard surviving on kind of wages that taxi drivers, street vendors that are working for in Manhattan, in New York City. I mean, it's incredibly difficult. But a lot of them, so for example, I think maybe what I would answer to your question, if I had to pick one other than the kind of classical ones, would be that at the during when the U.S. entered World War II, because the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, that the United States rounded up on the West Coast people who were from Japan and put them basically in prison. They were called internment camps. And a lot of the people, because Japanese haiku writing is so popular among people who had born and raised in Japan and moved to the United States, they were writing haiku in like little groups and clubs. And when they got put in these prisons or detention camps by the government at the beginning of World War II, right after Pearl Harbor, they kept writing haiku. And so you can go online and just type in Japanese American World War II haiku and come up with them. I think they're incredibly powerful. They move between like just more traditional poems about nature to the conditions in the camp or the prison where they were at that time. So those to me seem especially powerful. And in my undergrad creative writing class, I almost always include those. There was also a famous American novelist, Richard Wright. And maybe someone has read him in high school at some point. But he, toward the end of his life, got really interested in the haiku and wrote an entire book of them, wrote like hundreds of them. And so I think those are really good too. And there was a project recently in Brooklyn where around like, where you come up out of the subway, they had painted some of Richard Wright's haiku so you could read them as you were going to work in the morning or coming home at night and coming out of your subway stop. So I like those a lot too. I think they were really strong haiku. What punk bands would you consider to be your favorites? How long have you got? No, so I was in the early mid 1980s. I use punk just because it's an easy genre category, but what I was really into was like electronic and industrial music when synthesizers first started to become affordable and popular. So there were a lot of bands that I listened to back then who I really still love and write about. One would be the German band Kraftwerk. Another would be a couple of British bands. One is called Cabaret Voltaire. And I've especially been lately this sort of really kind of the first industrial noise band was called Throbbing Gristle. And so I've been writing and listening to them a lot lately. They did this, which I just found this on YouTube. In fact, I just posted this on my Instagram this morning. But there was someone in England who they released, because everybody was kind of starting their own labels as art projects and not, trying to make this really weird music. The big record labels aren't going to sign you then or today. And this music was really, really weird. But Throbbing Gristle put out this thing called 24 Hours, which was a box set of cassettes of 1 hour live performances of 24 of them. And someone just put that all on YouTube in the UK in the past year. So I've been listening to that a lot as well. But I like music that makes me think differently, and that certainly is. And I play it really quiet when I write or work or edit. It feels like good, noisy background music. So thank you for that question. Others? Feel free to come up to the camera or have somebody put it in the chat. Hello.
Hi. My friend and I were wondering, what was that Instagram haiku person that you mentioned, their name again?
Oh yeah, let me I'm gonna pull it up and put it in the chat, but her name is Lorraine Garnett. I'll just put her link in the in the chat, and then Kurt can pass it on to you. 1 second.
And then I guess the only other question I was going to say was like, if you have advice about either haikus or anything that you would want to say, like whatever that would be. But obviously that's like a loaded question.
Yes, I'm going to finish this first part of the multitasking, and then I'm going to get to the other part of the multitasking. So I'm going to put it in the chat, but it's, you know, the website, if you want to go do it, it's Rainy Garnett. So it's Garnett, Garnett with 2 T's, and then Rainy, like the word rain, RAINNY. And then, I'm sorry, the second question was about advice about, give it to me one more time.
Oh, I was thinking like, if you have any advice about either writing haikus or just in general. I also didn't understand like if you just edited that taxi driver, his work, or if you were like found him, or like what your connection to that started out as, and like kind of just made me think whatever advice you have, or if you want to dive into that too, but I also don't want to ask too much. So
No,
yeah.
ask away. Ask away. I'll answer them all. I appreciate multiple questions. So let me say, one of the things that's kind of unique about the Worker Writer School is that we are paired up with different labor organizations in New York City, not necessarily unions, right? So not like the, I don't know, UAW, the United Automobile Workers of America, right? But with what are called worker centers. So they're more organizations that are run by their members. They don't have like a big staff and presidents and all that kind of stuff. So we work with about 7 different organizations in New York City, and the members come from those organizations. So there are people who are interested in, you know, working to improve their wages, improve their working conditions, dealing with situations that people have with their bosses. You know, a lot of them work in private, in a way, like they don't have coworkers. Like you imagine if you're a nanny or a domestic worker, right? Like you're just dealing with the parents who hired you. And if they're mistreating you, if someone in the family is making, I don't know, sexual advances at you, if they're telling you that you need to work 12 hours but paying you for only 8 hours, like you don't really have anybody you can turn to for help. And so these organizations are the kind of organizations where people in those jobs can turn for help. And so we meet people, we get members for our group from those groups. So we have like, you know, you probably in your area have had maybe some news of Starbucks locations where the baristas are unionizing or organizing. We have that members of that group. We have some Starbucks baristas who have unionized their workplace or are working to unionize their workplace. We have members of different groups like Damian Migrant Workers Association, which works with a lot of Filipino and Indonesian workers, immigrant workers to the United States. So we meet people through these organizations. And one of the reasons for me doing that, just to add one little thing, is that a lot of times when people write poetry, they write about difficulty in their lives. And I didn't want to be in a situation like sometimes might happen in a creative writing class where someone writes about something difficult and everybody's like, I feel bad for that or something, you know what I mean? But you have empathy, but you don't have any chance to help that person in a direct way. And so because we work with all these different labor organizations, if someone, like say that nanny writes about working 12 hours and getting paid for 8, we can say, well, here's an organization that has volunteer lawyers, that has labor activists who can help you, like at least figure out how to talk about that, or find different nanny job where someone treats you better. Like we wanted to be in that kind of situation with our group so that when people came in and wrote about difficulties, we appreciated it as a poem, but we appreciated it and could try to help as part of their life as well. And then for the like advice, you know, I always say that like when I was a musician, I don't know if anybody's a musician or listens to music all the time, probably in your earbuds or whatever, but like it's like when you're listening to music, you're kind of building a little library in your head, right? And I know that when I was in the music scene, everybody had stacks and stacks and stacks of albums, or at that point, cassette CDs, whatever. And so you had like been learning the form by listening to the music, right? And you like, oh, I like the drums on this track, or I like the way the background vocals work on this song, or I like the keyboard sound here. Like you're kind of learning craft and technique. But we don't really do that as writers. So one of the things in the Worker Writer School and with us meeting all the time, like we started, what is it now? 13 or 14 years ago. And we have a couple of members, including Davidson, the taxi driver, and a woman named Christine from Domestic Workers United, who have been in our workshop for like 12 or 13, almost all of those years. And they come, you know, we have maybe 8 workshops a year on the first Saturday of the month, and they keep learning a new poem, learning a new poet, practicing a new style of poem each and every week. They studied all those haiku people I mentioned, they studied all of them in class. They read on their own. So it's like, you know, it's like anything else. I always even tell my own students, right, about writing haiku or writing any kind of poetry, fiction, nonfiction. It's like writing is a muscle, right? It's just like any other muscle in your body. And so, you know, if I was going to give you all, I don't give quizzes. I hate quizzes. So I'm a teacher, but I don't ever give a quiz. But if I was a teacher who gave a quiz, right? And the quiz was graded on how many, I don't know, push ups you could do right now, right? I just said, everybody lay down on the floor and do push-ups, right? I'm going to grade you. Whoever does the most push-ups gets an A. Whoever does the second most push-ups gets a B. Whoever does the third most push-ups gets a C. And whoever can't do that many push-ups, you get an F. Well, some people are very worried right now, right? Some people are very excited right now. But if I said, I'm not going to test you until December at the end of the semester, well, you have an opportunity to keep practicing your push-ups, right? Do it if you did push-ups. Let's just think if you could do 10 push-ups now, 5 push-ups right now. But then you did push-ups every day or every other day from now till the middle of December when the semester ends. You could probably, if you do 10 now, you probably do 50 or 60 push-ups by the end of the semester, right? Because you would have built those muscles by practicing every day. The same is true with writing. You know, there's this famous piece that I always teach a lot of my writing students called 7 Rules for Beginner Writers by the novelist V.S. Naipaul, right? And he has a bunch of like super simple rules like write in short sentences or, you know, limit your use of adjectives and adverbs. And the last rule is do this every day, practice this every day for 6 months. And so I know that there's been like even like journalists and things who have kept these rules like on their desk where they write because it's just a reminder to keep practicing and doing these things very regularly, right? And a lot of times, you know, writing stinks. Like I hate doing it. Like sometimes I get up, my cats wake me up at like 5:30 every morning, which I used to hate. And then I was like, well, everybody in my house is asleep, so I'm going to feed the cats and I'm going to go downstairs and I'm going to be where I am now and I'm going to write. And it's been like this summer, I got so much work done because my cats woke me up at 5:30 every morning. Now, I'm not so good at about 11 o'clock at night as I used to be, but I've gotten a lot of work done and I like the work I've gotten done just because I've practiced it every single day. And it doesn't have to be, you know, well, it shouldn't. Hopefully, it's not so early in the morning. And it doesn't even have to be every day, like a couple times a week, but some kind of regular writing practice just makes you a stronger reader, a stronger writer, a stronger thinker. It does all those things. And so we always say, like, can you write a couple haiku a week? Right? Even that alone is getting you to think about language, vocabulary, all of that kind of stuff. So thank you for that question. Sorry for the long answer. I think we have time for maybe one final question. Who else has got a question? Any fun? Thank you for coming up. By the way, you all have been fantastic. Let me just say that. I mean, I know sometimes the Zoom technology is a little funky, but applause to all of you. Yes, question.
Oh, so I've been trying to figure out how to word this for like 30 minutes now.
Okay.
So like my passion for writing, for me, I come from a background of like film and animation. Like I really enjoy writing like scripts for like visual mediums.
Right.
And that's why I'm going to college. And I went to the JBS for 4 years for this. And I have doubted it almost every single day of my life. Like I've thought like 5 times a week, I think like I should just drop everything and just like become an accountant or like work in IT or something. So I guess how, like you or the people you work with, how do you reconcile like putting yourself out there creatively and like taking like a massive risk with that versus like doing the responsible thing and just locking in and just choosing something safe?
Sure. Thank you. It's a great question. And first of all, don't become an accountant. There's enough people who are becoming accountants, and every person I know who became an accountant is like bored to death being an accountant. So, I think part of it, there's a couple of things, right? Like, one is, can we have a couple of trades, right? Like, can we have a couple of related things that we do? So, I'm a poet, I'm a writer, right? But I don't make my living from writing. I teach at a college. I've taught at college for many, many years now. And so that though gives me time to do the thing that's really my passion, which is writing, right? So I never teach before noon, right? I always have that time set aside for work, my own work, stuff around the house, whatever it is. And I usually work like my classes fall anywhere from like noon to 7, right? Although Monday nights they're till 10 o'clock at night. But I do that so that I have some flexibility in my schedule to do the work. So that's one way of going about it. The second would be, like you talked about IT, for example, right? Or working in, software development or something like that in general. Like that might be an adjacent thing that allows you to do both things. But if you've stuck with something for this long, that's a sense that you have a certain depth of passion for that thing. And I think from people I know, that has pretty regularly been rewarded in the end if they stick to it. But I think every person, even like I am pretty well established in my field. Every day that I write, I have doubt. Like there isn't a day that like here next to me, look, these are just all drafts of the same thing. Like this is just me going over and over and over something again, right? Months, like I have these poems that are like 20 pages long. They take months of going over and over them to get them right, to get them correct. So I think one, don't be an accountant. I'm sorry, your family can be mad at me for saying that, but I think unless you're passionate about being that, then okay. But if you're not, see where following that passion it goes. Are there adjacent areas that are maybe a little more economically stable that you could be in that allow you time to also do your passion? And don't worry about doubt because everybody has it. I don't know. I talk to and meet musicians and artists and people all the time. I know almost none of them who don't doubt it pretty regularly. And if they don't, they're just kind of egotistical, fill in the blank, bad word there, right? Like, I think that if anybody's being real, they doubt it regularly, and that's just part of the artistic process. Like, doubt is part of it. And so it's hard when you're younger and not established. You always have that. I thought at one point, just for me, when I was in my music career and before I decided I was going to go and get a master's in creative writing, I thought I should just quit this and become a manager of my Wendy's. I know how to do everything. I could make more money. I could run the store. I could, get a better car than the clunker I had, all that kind of stuff. And thank God I didn't do that. I mean, I would be, now an old, about to retire. Well, probably not because I wouldn't have made enough money. I'd be working in some kind of restaurant somewhere, and my, that thing I was passionate about would have never gotten fulfilled. So I encourage you to stick with it, and think about those adjacent areas like, digital technology, IT, software development, et cetera, that you might be able to do both if one area doesn't work out, so you still have time to pursue it. Because, you know, you can write screenplays for a really long time. My colleague at the master's program, it writes for scripts for you know, Netflix and stuff like that. And he is, even though he's had some success, he's constantly like having people like negotiating, being at the final stage of negotiation, and then it gets dropped by Hulu or whoever. So it's just part of the process, and it's better to get used to it, because then, you know, you have a little bit more staying power in it. But I wish you all the luck, honestly.
All right, everyone. Yeah, I think that should be about it. And yeah, let's give a round of applause to Mark and to everybody that came up. You deserve applause for reading your haiku also, and for the great questions from Mark. So yeah, great presentation and great question. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming out today to our first webinar of the year, and I look forward to anybody coming out for the other webinars that we have planned for this semester. And again, thank you to Mark for coming and for presenting and for giving us so many great ideas and pointers about writing. So yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Yep, you too.
Bye.
Folks, there are to-go boxes over there. Please don't leave any food in this room because we just have to give it back to catering. So do your grocery shopping while you are here.